Hey, I thought I'd talk about some things I'd like to see improved in this game because I am honestly approaching the end of the road in terms of guides. I think I have covered pretty much every facet of this game at this point. Right now, it's basically just waiting for the second part of the Season Pass and hoping that this game will have anything resembling the post-launch content that we're getting for Dynasty Warriors 9. Obviously, the content they're putting for that out is not ideal, to put it nicely. I mean, the second Season Pass is $45, and like a big chunk of it is just fan service costumes for the female characters, but you know, they are supporting the game, they are improving it, and I think this game needs a very similar kind of TLC, and I'm not entirely sure we're going to get it at this point. Now, one of the biggest problems with this game is the battle arena. You know, they thought that this was going to be something worth allocating resources into, you know, to kind of improve the longevity and replay value of the game. However, pretty much the polar opposite has happened. I did have access to the Japanese version of this game thanks to a friend who let me game share it temporarily, and I can tell you it was pretty much dead on arrival. Like on launch day, there was barely anybody playing it, and it's pretty much been the same thing now. It's very hard to get a match. It feels like very misguided use of resources. You know, they could have easily put in something like unlimited mode, you know, that largely uses, you know, existing assets in a new way and kind of, you know, improves the replay value, adds things to grind for. That's definitely what this game is missing. Challenge mode, obviously, is another issue. They're charging $5 for this. It has very little value to it at all. Pretty much everything that you can get from it, you can get from the story mode, from the summer camp feature. So there's like no real reason to play it except if it was, you know, just for fun. However, paying $5 for something that looks like it was made in an hour, I'm not really sure if that's the best way to, you know, monetize your game. Now, one thing people have been complaining about is the character selection menu. It is very hard to find a certain character. Now, you do have these little sorting features here, but it's still just a lot of stuff to sift through. It can be very hard to find a specific character you want. Like, say, if I go to Sacred Treasures here, and then I sort them out, let's go down the Solaria characters. So even though they all have the Talaria, because I have everybody else with the Lumen one, they're all up here somewhere. So, in a way, the DLC for the Sacred Treasures has actually made it even worse. They said that they're going to address this at some point, but I definitely can speak from experience. I've spent a lot of time just like staring at the menu at this and not being able to find the character I actually want to add to my party. Now, I should form a team here so I can show exactly what is wrong with the balancing in this game. Now, the skill tree, I think that the skill tree, it's kind of cool, but after you've played as a couple characters in each like character class, they're all pretty much identical, and I think that adding things like multi that only the Mystics have, like as you can see here, Cyborg Nessa has the multi-skill. I think that would make things far more unique. There's definitely ways that they could make things more unique that wouldn't really involve that much effort. Like you could give Ling Tong, like, I don't know, faster attack speed or something. Maybe give him a better hitbox or more hit stun or something. Like things like that would be really cool and would kind of differentiate the characters between types. But as it stands now, pretty much everybody has the exact same thing. Now, weapons, obviously, this has been a pretty big complaint as well. You know, the only thing there is to do once you finish the game is to grind for these unique weapons, but they're not even unique. Like, they have the exact same skin, they have, like, a marginal increase in attack power, and, you know, they have, like, one gold ability on them, which kind of reduces the grind a little bit, but it's not really enough. You know, there's no cool skin to grind for, there's no unique abilities. Even the unique abilities you have in this, like the gold ones, a lot of them are missing, like Typhoon. Typhoon would make a lot of the characters a lot better in this game. A lot of the ones that have bad range, like Nessa and things like that, without having to use the crazy cheat engine mods that I've been showcasing this past week. I don't know why those are missing. I don't know if they're planning to add them in later, but you know, some of the characters feel a little off without them. Echo, for what it's worth, it sucks in this game. It knocks them very far away. It can be very hard to get element procs off it, from what little I've used it. I like the element system. I like how you can actually just easily make a new weapon, and you can even recycle, you know, an older one and get all your gold abilities back. But it just feels like it feels half-baked. Like there's just a lot of gold abilities from the last games that just haven't been implemented in here for whatever reason. I actually like this feature a lot. I like how it does give some use to, you know, the gems after you finish the game. It's not much, but it does help. You know, if you're low on an element like agility or something, you can just buy a bunch here and be done with it. However, the interface needs to be improved. You should be able to buy more than 10 at a time. For what it's worth, you need about 120 to max out an ability on one weapon. So having to buy them 10 at a time just feels it feels off, especially since you have to hold the button down to confirm it. I think this is definitely part of the interface that needs to be improved. Now, there's been some work with a new cheat engine table. Apparently people are just like switching the sacred treasures out completely. I think that's something that they should open up. I think it would be cool if maybe even there was like some kind of end game, you know, objective tied to it, you know, like maybe finish a level on Pandemonium difficulty or something with that character and be able to switch the sacred treasures. I think that would be fun quite a bit. There are some characters that would really benefit from having another sacred treasure. However, the DLC sacred treasures, most of them seem to be straight upgrades. There are some, like the scythe, that kind of, they give like an alternate playstyle. They aren't just straight upgrades, but basically they seem to be just kind of trying to fix that problem with, you know, making people pay for sacred treasures, which I don't know if that's really the best way to go about it. There's ones like the Mjolnir and the Caduceus that are way better in pretty much every way than the other one, and there's ones like the Scythe, like I said, they're basically just an alternate playstyle. The summer camp feature, I think, is actually pretty nice. I do enjoy how, you know, you can put characters in here and get a decent weapon for them and not have to worry about RNG that much, especially since you kind of just get it just for playing. I just feel like, you know, the rare elements should not be tied there. And if they are, then the challenge mode should have different ones, because I already put up a guide where you can cycle through the summer camp in like less than 10 minutes. You know, factoring in load times and actually playing through the maps and stuff. And you can get the elements that way, so why would I want to pay $5 for a challenge mode that's looked like it was, you know, made in an hour and get the exact same thing I can get through here? I understand that there's, you know, kind of a slippery slope there in terms of making people pay for exclusive elements, but there's no reason why they couldn't just add more elements to the base game. Now, biggest problem with this game is the balance issues, and a lot of it makes no sense. When I switch to Naomasa here, you're going to see that all of that is proccing elements. Even stuff like his C3-2, which is one of his fastest moves that he can get out. All of that is proccing elements. And I switch to Ling Tong here, and I go to his C3-EX. None of that past the element proc for the end of his C3 activates elements at all. So you have these moves that are supposed to differentiate them from the Samurai Warriors characters, and they don't even do anything. And then you have characters like Human Nezha here, or Cyborg Nezha. He's basically glossed, you know, element procs on his best move. You have to go out of your way to really play him to do any damage at all. And I've definitely put a bunch of time into him over this past week, but it feels like I shouldn't have to. Also, the technique characters. If you're a Dynasty Warriors character, you don't actually get the good Agi, or the Shadow Dash. You get the bad one. It's very hard to combo after it. Basically, it doesn't have the same, like, fast animation. And it has a lot of recovery at the end. Like, you can see, like, you can hear me mashing the button after this. Let's see how long it takes to get to an attack. Like, the only real viable thing to do is to just mash it, because you get a bunch of extra damage on the skill tree for mashing it. Or rather, doing a shadow step or an Agi. on a character that's already joking. But if I switch to like Mitsunari or something, you're going to see this just massive night and day difference in terms of the overall fluidity and usefulness of the Iggy mechanic. This is what I'm talking about. I can't find him right now. There's too many characters. Actually, I can do it with Mitsuhide. Like, you can see how much less recovery there is on this because this is the actual like Shadow Dash or Iggy. You can see how quickly I can actually go through the attacks and actually create unique combos. And if I switch to Ling Tong, I can't do anything resembling that at all. There's just basically no way to do it. The Dynasty Warriors characters in this game, they feel like a shadow of their former selves. Like the EX attacks not having elements is one of the biggest issues, but then you have characters like this who barely have them on anything, and you basically have to use Brilliance or Wrath to even make them remotely playable, which is not fun. You know, some people really like the whole power fantasy thing of Musou games, and I admit that I like it a bit too, but I also really like the mechanics and the combo systems of these games, and it's very difficult to use characters like this in a way that's not just mashing buttons with Brilliance on, because they didn't really provide any kind of like actual method to play them in any other way. I think it's one of the biggest problems with this game is that the balance is just all over the place, and it's not even something that would be difficult to fix. You know, you could have things like, instead of just removing elements from his C5 entirely, maybe just make it so it's the first and last hit. That would allow him to at least start a combo and get some damage at all. Also, the final thing I'd really like to see fixed in this game, besides the lack of an endgame, is the damage system. Basically, if you don't have Slay on your weapon, you do no damage at all. Like, you literally do nothing. Slay is such a big part of like your damage in this game. Even if you have a bunch of other stuff on your weapon, unless it's like Wrath or Brilliance, or even Aggression to a lesser extent, you're basically not going to be doing any damage at all. This game is so heavily front-loaded in terms of the damage. It's all based on like Slay. Even if you have other things on your weapon, unless it's an exception, like this build here I have for Ling Tong. You have to excuse the plus 20s. It's a side effect from messing around with Cheat Engine, but you know, if you have Divinity and Aerial with the Talaria, you actually can do good damage without elements, but for most other characters you can't do that. It feels really off, and it's one thing that makes the Dynasty Warriors characters even worse to play, because if you don't have Slayer in your weapon, it can be even harder to do damage with them, and even then you may only have like 1 or 2 charge attacks that attach elements at all. It makes no sense to me. I don't know why they did that. I understand that they wanted to lower the damage overall to you know, facilitate the fact that it's a lot easier and more intuitive to do tag combos in this game, which is a good thing. I've seen a lot of random people on Twitch and stuff. I watch some of their streams sometimes to see what the overall consensus of the game is, and you have like brand new people who aren't like hardcore diehard Musou fans at least attempting to use the combo system, which I think is a good thing. They haven't really done a good job of, you know, encouraging people to use the combo systems in a long time, or pretty much ever. But at the same time, you have half the cast, you know, they're barely able to attach elements at all, and you know, a lot of people are not putting Slay on their weapons, and they're doing no damage. It just feels off to me. I'm not sure why the game is designed that way. Finally, I like the Pandemonium system. I like how it kind of adds a little bit of an endgame. But the problem is that it's completely random where he spawns. If he spawns in the first 2 chapters, it's not even worth doing because he's not going to drop anything worthwhile. Even in Chapter 3, like the difference in levels in Chapter 3 from the first map to the last map is 12 levels. So you go from 18 to 30. So if he spawns at the end here, he actually can drop something decent. But if he spawns at the beginning, it's basically just a massive waste of time. You can see how long some of these levels are. It's not even worth your time. It's better to use the method that I posted last week and just wait until he spawns, but it just adds a layer of RNG to this game that's not really needed right now. They need to have more endgame incentives in this game that aren't RNG, and right now there isn't. Even if there was, you have these unique weapons here that aren't even a good power increase. They don't even have a unique skin, and you know, for a lot of people, it's not even about the power increase, it's about the unique skin and making your character look cool. You don't even really have that in this game. There's no unlockable costumes. You know, they're putting all those costumes up for DLC that were done like years ago, and they're not even really providing anything in-game to unlock at all, aside from these weapons. And you can go ahead and look here. Look at the difference in attack in his weapons. It's a total of a whopping 6 attack. And even if that you know, was a larger difference, it's like it doesn't even matter that much because the damage in this game is so heavily reliant on the element procs, and they haven't even really bothered to fix that. I think it's one of the biggest issues with this game is that you can't really play it the way you want in some cases. Like, I like the Dynasty Warriors characters because they have more fun movesets. Most of their gimmicks are intact. Their movesets in general are a lot newer than pretty much anything the Samurai Warriors characters have. You have some characters like Mitsuhide here who've their movesets have been repurposed. You know, they kind of turned him into a charge type character instead of a normal type character, which is definitely a welcome addition because the normal type characters, especially in a fast-paced game like this, it just takes way too long to get to anything useful. And luckily, the Samurai Warriors characters in this game, they do have the advantage of having pretty much elements on everything, even their Godspeed attacks, but it still just takes too long. It's nice that they did do that a little bit in Samurai Warriors 4, but in general, I've been playing with those same movesets for like 10 years. So I like playing as the Dynasty Warriors characters because they're more up my alley. You know, they have the weaponry and the animations and stuff that I, you know, just enjoy playing as more. However, it feels like I'm just playing at a disadvantage because I have like no element procs on anything. All my EX attacks, you know, some of them take a long time to get to, even with maxed out agility, and they basically don't do anything. You can't even like start a combo with wind on them. It just feels really off. You have the Sacred Treasure system, which is a good idea. I can see how they wanted to kind of reduce the workload, even though I'm kind of not even sure if that was the intention because they did end up making a new move for everybody with a unique magic system. I like the horse canceling and stuff like that. I like how it improves the pacing. It's just, you know, a lot of them feel awful, and you know, right now they're charging people for the DLC, you know, to make them useful. Like the boots for Ling Tong are way better in every way than the other one, but you know, you have to pay $12 for that, and it just feels off to me. Like, they don't seem to be wanting to actually improve the balance of the game at all. They're kind of doing a band-aid approach with the Sacred Treasures DLC. But there's so many other things that I just talked about in this video that they could easily fix, and it just doesn't seem to be any interest in doing that right now. I like this game. I like playing it. I just feel that there's just not enough to do once you finish it, and the aforementioned issues that I mentioned in this video definitely kind of hold me back from wanting to take it to a high level. I always feel like I'm playing at a constant disadvantage in this game. You know, you can get killed in like 3 hits in this game. You know, sometimes the hitboxes, they'll hit you off screen, you know, like this DLC map here with the Hanzo clones that spawn. Like, you know, they can hit you with the Bow of Artemis from off screen and take off like 90 to 100% of your health. And it just doesn't feel like, you know, sometimes I die in this game. Almost all the time when I die in this game, I feel like it's not my fault. I feel like they wanted to facilitate giving the player more options by just having a bunch of one-shots or borderline one-shots in the game, which just feels, it doesn't feel fun. You know, the checkpoints can be very few and far between. You can die to an officer, like the commander, at the end of a map and be set back like 5 to 6 minutes, which just feels crazy to me. It feels like, you know, since they have checkpoints in the game, they figured that they could make the game a lot harder. However, you don't even have interim saves in this game. You can't even, like, kind of do like a soft reset like the old school Dynasty Warriors games if you make a mistake. And that's kind of a problem when you have unique weapons that are dependent on clearing all the objectives in one attempt. And if you get stuck, or if you mess up, you basically have to reset. And not only do you have to play through the whole map again, you have to sit through a bunch of talking again, which is probably the final complaint I have with this game, is that there's just a lot of talking. The pacing is all over the place. You have some maps so that you go basically as fast as you can possibly play, and then you have other maps where you're stuck waiting at a gate for them to shut up for things, you know, you've heard like 10, 20 times at this point, like just to, you know, actually continue the map and actually let you play the game. It feels really off, and there's just nothing else to really divert your time to. You have a Dead on Arrival Battle Arena mode that no one's playing, and a challenge mode that doesn't really have much of a purpose. You know, it is fun to play, I will give it that, but there's absolutely no reason why it shouldn't have been in the base game, even just a post-release patch. You know, they have like Dynasty Warriors 9, they added the ordeals in the arena. That was a completely free update, and I got, it must have been at least like 15-20 hours out of that, and that was, you know, completely free. It added a bunch of dynamics to the game. You know, they added the lore gems, and they had the cool accessories that actually changed the way the game was played in the arena. And there's just nothing to be seen here, and I kind of have a worry that they're just going to drop this game. They're not going to support it anymore. Maybe they'll do like a few quality of life things, and that's it. And it's a shame. I think the mechanics for what they did, despite the massive amount of, you know, completely recycled assets, I think they actually did a good job of kind of revitalizing some of these old movesets. However, the balancing goes completely against that. You have half the cast. This feels useless compared to the Samurai Warriors characters, where you can basically just mash square, square, triangle, 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 just do a C3 or a C4 chain and just kill everything. And then the Dynasty Warriors characters have to go through so much more effort and take way longer to kill anything. I'm not sure how they can fix it. You know, it feels like they could easily just change some numbers around or something. It'd be cool if the community could do it, but I'm not sure if that's really something that the cheat engine people are actually willing to do. If that does happen, I'll definitely let you guys know. There are some exciting mods I'll probably be getting into maybe early next week that I'll try to you know, explain to you guys when I can. But for now, I'm definitely going to be exploring some other options for now. I'll probably mess around with a couple more teams, and then hope that they'll add some more content to this. I'll definitely be forwarding this video to the community rep and hope that maybe he will be able to get this information to other people. If you guys want to help me out, go ahead and post some comments and let me know what you guys would like to see improved in this game as well, and I'll see what I can do. Thanks for watching. Peace.